What if that profound, hollow ache of loneliness you feel isn't a curse? What if it's not a sign that you fundamentally fail to connect with the world, but a secret, sacred invitation to finally meet your true self? We live in a world that's supposed to be more connected than ever before. 1,000 friends, 1,000,000 followers, an endless stream of digital validation. They're all just a single click away. But beneath this shimmering surface of hyperconnectivity, a quiet, pervasive epidemic is unfolding. It's a chilling paradox of our time. We've never been more connected, yet we've never felt more alone. This isn't just the loneliness of an empty room or a quiet evening. It's deeper. It's a loneliness of the soul, a feeling of being unseen in a world that's constantly watching. The pioneering psychiatrist Carl Jung, a man who charted the deepest, most treacherous corners of the human mind, he understood this feeling with an unnerving clarity. He knew this pain, not as a pathology, but as a profound part of the human journey. And he proposed something radical, something that cuts against the grain of our modern instinct to fix, numb, and distract. He said this experience of being fundamentally misunderstood isn't something to be cured. It's a painful, difficult, but ultimately necessary path to becoming the person you were always meant to be. He suggested that the agony of loneliness is a fire, and its sacred purpose is to forge your soul. This isn't an easy journey. It's not a quick fix or a life hack. It's a descent into the quiet, uncomfortable, and often shadowy spaces inside you. It's a direct confrontation with the parts of yourself you've learned to ignore, to suppress, to be ashamed of. But according to Jung, it's in that very descent, in that chosen, conscious solitude, that you discover your real strength, your purpose, and a way to connect with others that is more real, more authentic, and more deeply fulfilling than anything you've ever known. Today, well, we're going on that journey. We're going to deconstruct the agony of modern loneliness, examine it through the powerful lens of Jungian thought, and discover how this, dark psychology, isn't a path to despair, but a secret door to becoming whole. To truly grasp what Jung was telling us, we have to look that specific loneliness that haunts our modern world right in the eye. It's not simply about the absence of people. Some of the loneliest places on this earth are the most crowded cities, the liveliest parties, the busiest offices. This is a psychic loneliness, an inner state of alienation that gnaws at you, no matter who is around, and one of its most painful, cutting forms is the agony of being misunderstood. Have you ever been in a room full of people, perhaps even your closest friends or family, and felt like there was an invisible, soundproof wall between you and them? You talk, you laugh, you play your part, but the real you, the one that lives and breathes behind your eyes, remains utterly unseen, unheard. You carry thoughts, questions, and feelings so deep you can't even begin to articulate them. Not because you lack the words, but because you know on a gut level that they won't be understood. They'll be met with blank stares, polite but vacant smiles, or worse, dismissal. Carl Jung articulated this perfectly. He wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. This is the specific pain of the deep thinker, the sensitive soul, the person who, for whatever reason, perceives the world on a different frequency. You see the subtle patterns others miss. You question the unspoken rules everyone else blindly follows. You feel the weight of existence in moments where others just shrug and move on. And when you dare to share a glimpse of what you truly see, you're often met with a kind of gentle invalidation. You're told you're too serious, too intense, or the classic, you're overthinking it. And so, you learn to be quiet. You learn to wear a mask, a construct Jung called the persona. The persona, you see, is the social face we present to the world. It's designed to make a definite impression on others and to conceal our true nature. It's the agreeable, easygoing version of you, the competent, unshakable professional, the funny, carefree friend. This mask, well, it helps you navigate social situations, it helps you survive. But it comes at a terrible price. Every time you put it on, every time you swallow your true thoughts to avoid rocking the boat, you are building the wall between your true self and the world a little bit higher. The loneliness, it just gets deeper. Because now, you're not just misunderstood by others. You are actively, consciously participating in the act of being misunderstood. You are becoming an accomplice in your own invisibility. This leads to a quiet, insidious kind of pain, the loneliness of being alienated from your own self. The more you hide what you really think and feel, just to fit in, the more you lose touch with the person you are when nobody is watching. Your inner world, once this vibrant, complex landscape, becomes a distant country you barely visit. You start to live exclusively on the surface, mastering the art of small talk, while the most vital part of you is starving for a meaningful conversation. This is what Jung called an existence devoid of inner meaning. Life, it becomes a performance. You play the role so well that you begin to forget. The actor behind the mask is growing tired, hollow. This is the quiet despair that so many people feel, even when, on the surface, they seem to have it all. They're surrounded by people, but they are profoundly, terrifyingly alone, because they've become a stranger in their own soul. When you're that disconnected from your own core, you inevitably feel disconnected from everything. You look at the world and feel no genuine sense of belonging. This is the ultimate, most devastating pain of loneliness, not just feeling separate from people, but from life itself. It becomes a spiritual crisis. And this isn't just in your head. Studies have shown for years that the biological impact of chronic loneliness can be as damaging to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. This intense psychological stress triggers a chronic fight-or-flight response, flooding your body with hormones like cortisol. While useful in short bursts, chronically elevated cortisol can suppress your immune system, increase inflammation, and raise the risk for everything from heart disease to depression. It becomes a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. The lonelier you feel, the more threatening and hostile the world seems, which makes you act in defensive, withdrawn ways that inadvertently push people away, proving to your wounded psyche that you were right all along. You're destined to be alone. This is the labyrinth of modern loneliness, a prison with invisible walls. But Carl Jung offers a different path. He suggests you shouldn't try to frantically escape the prison. Instead, you need to turn around, face the darkness, and realize the key to your freedom is locked inside the cell with you. Right at this point, when the loneliness feels most suffocating and unbearable, Jung's philosophy extends a hand, not to pull you out into the superficial light, but to guide you deeper into the darkness. He reframes the entire experience. This is not a social failure. It is a spiritual summons. That persistent ache you feel is a call from the deepest, wisest, most authentic part of you. What he called the self. The self, in Jungian terms, isn't the ego. It's the totality of your psyche, the organizing principle that contains both your conscious and unconscious mind. It is the whole, the complete you, the person you were born to become. For the first half of our lives, our primary psychological task is to build a functional ego and a workable persona. It's about adapting to the external world. We learn the rules, we find a career, we build relationships, we learn what's socially acceptable and what gets us applause. But for many people, there comes a point, often in midlife, where that applause feels hollow. The career, the success, the carefully constructed social life, they all start to feel empty, like a beautifully decorated house with no one living inside. This is the moment the self begins to call. It's sending a clear message. The life you've built on the outside no longer matches the truth of who you are on the inside. It's time to turn inward. This inward turn is the beginning of what Jung called individuation. It's the journey of becoming a true individual, not in the sense of being selfish, but in the sense of being undivided, whole, authentic. And loneliness is almost always the catalyst that sparks this journey. Life itself seems to arrange it. Maybe a painful breakup forces you into solitude, or a career path hits a dead end, leaving you feeling lost, or you move to a new city where you know no one. From the perspective of the ego, which craves control and social approval, these events are a disaster. But from the perspective of the self, it's a sacred opportunity. The deafening noise of the external world has finally been turned down, so you can, at long last, hear the quiet whisper of your own soul. But the first thing you meet when you turn inward, it isn't divine light and blissful peace. No, it's your own shadow. Jung described the shadow as the thing a person has no wish to be. It's the psychological container where we shove, everything we've been taught to reject about ourselves. It holds our socially unacceptable anger, our secret envy, our selfish desires, our raw ambition. But the shadow isn't just a garbage bin of bad things. Oh no. It also holds our hidden strengths, our unlived life. It contains our repressed creativity, our buried potential, the assertiveness a woman was taught was unladylike, the vulnerability a man was taught was weak. We all have a shadow. And as Jung famously said, the less you acknowledge it and embody it in your conscious life, the blacker and denser it gets. We spend most of our lives running from our shadow, but it doesn't go away. In fact, it just runs our lives from the unconscious. We see it in the perpetually nice person who has sudden, inexplicable outbursts of rage. You know, their legitimate anger, denied for so long, it just festered in the shadow, and now it erupts, uncontrollably. One of the most common ways we avoid confronting our own shadow is by projecting it onto other people. We see in them the very faults we can't or simply won't see in ourselves. The things that infuriate you most about other people, they're often the most valuable clues to your own unowned shadow. If you can't stand someone's perceived arrogance, is it possible it's a sign you've suppressed your own healthy self-worth and ambition? And if their laziness disgusts you, could it be that a part of you is desperately screaming for rest and an escape from relentless self-criticism? Jung stated, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." Loneliness forces this encounter. When the external distractions are gone, when the social calendar is empty, there's nowhere left to run. In the profound quiet, the things you've suppressed for years start to stir. This can be terrifying. It feels like descending into a dark, musty basement, filled with every part of yourself you've ever thrown away. This is the real, dark psychology of loneliness, and not just the psychology of being sad. No, it's the psychology of the deep, dark, rich, and fertile soil of your own soul. The temptation is to bolt back upstairs, turn on the TV, and find another distraction. But Jung's invitation is to stay in the darkness. to light a candle, to sit with these uncomfortable feelings, to get to know these rejected, exiled parts of yourself. This is the courageous process known as shadow work. It's not about acting on these impulses, but about acknowledging them without judgment, understanding their origins, and integrating them into a more complete and honest version of yourself. As Jung powerfully said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is the true journey that loneliness initiates. By facing your hidden anger, you might finally uncover a deep and abiding passion for justice. By owning your envy, you might discover what your soul truly desires for your own life. The shadow, the very thing you feared and ran from, holds the very gold you need to become whole. When you accept this secret invitation and begin the difficult work of confronting your shadow, you step onto the path of individuation. This isn't a quick fix or a weekend workshop. It's a lifelong, ever-deepening journey toward becoming whole. Note the distinction: not perfect, but whole. It's the process of becoming the unique, complex, and authentic individual you were always meant to be. In many ways, this journey mirrors the classic hero's journey myth found in cultures across the world. The hero is called to leave their ordinary world. That's the comfort of fitting in and social conformity. Then, they venture into a realm of unknown dangers, the unconscious. They face formidable monsters, the personal and collective shadow. And they win a decisive victory, the integration of the psyche, before returning to their community with a gift or a treasure. Loneliness is the call to adventure. It's the act of leaving the familiar village. It's the necessary, frightening solitude of the wilderness where the real trials must take place. The first great trial is integrating the shadow. This takes immense moral courage. It means abandoning the simplistic, ego-gratifying story that you're a good person, and admitting that you're a complex, often contradictory mix of light and dark. It means having the radical honesty to say, yes, I've felt destructive rage. I've felt bitter envy. I've been selfish. I've had cruel thoughts. When you can look at your own darkness without flinching and without judgment, something profound shifts within you. The parts of you that were at war declare a truce. You stop wasting enormous amounts of psychic energy on repression. As you continue this work, you naturally start to pull away from the collective herd mentality. You begin to develop your own set of values, guided by an inner moral authority, not by what your culture, your family, or your peer group dictates is right. This can be a profoundly lonely stage. The choices you make, to leave a secure but soul-crushing job, to end a relationship that everyone approved of, to pursue an unconventional passion, might not make sense to people who are still playing by the old rules. You might outgrow friendships that were built around the foundation of your old false mask. Jung knew this well. He believed that a consequence of developing a higher consciousness is often a period of isolation. If you know more than others, he said, you become lonely. But this is a different quality of loneliness. It's not the desperate, needy loneliness of the first stage. It's the noble loneliness of the mountain climber who has ascended above the tree line. The air is thinner up here, and the path is solitary, but the view is breathtaking. It's a chosen loneliness, a solitude filled with purpose, and a quiet, solid sense of self. The ultimate goal of this journey is to build a conscious, living relationship with the self, that wise, central, organizing part of you. The ego, which for so long thought it was the absolute monarch, has a humbling realization. It's merely a loyal servant, to something much greater and wiser within. Your life is no longer driven by the frantic, anxious need for external approval or the illusion of control. Instead, it's guided by the quiet, unshakable wisdom of the self. A key outcome of this profound internal shift is that you become a true friend to yourself. You learn to genuinely enjoy your own company. The silence that was once terrifying and filled with anxiety is now a source of peace, creativity, and rejuvenation. Solitude is no longer a void to be filled, but fertile ground to be cultivated. You don't need constant external validation to feel worthy, because you've discovered something indestructible inside of you. You learn to protect your solitude fiercely, not out of fear of others, but because you know it's the sacred space where you connect with your deepest self and recharge your soul. This doesn't mean you become a hermit, sealed off from the world. Jung was clear. This inner journey does not lead away from the world, but back to it, utterly transformed. The final, and perhaps most crucial, stage of the hero's journey is the return. You don't stay on the mountaintop forever, lost in solitary contemplation. You bring the treasure you found in the darkness back to the village. And that treasure is your own integrated wholeness. Here lies the ultimate paradox of this entire process. The journey into the deepest, most isolating solitude is what ultimately prepares you for the most profound and authentic connection. When you re-engage with the world from this place of inner wholeness, your relationships, they change completely. Before, they were likely based on unspoken needs and transactional arrangements. You needed others to validate you, to distract you from your inner emptiness, to make you feel less alone. They were based on subtle, unconscious contracts. Things like, "I'll wear the mask you need me to wear. If you wear the mask I need you to wear." But when you've done the work to become your own source of validation and companionship, you no longer approach people with an empty begging bowl. Instead, you approach them from a place of fullness. You aren't looking for someone to complete you. You're already whole. You're looking to share your wholeness with another whole person. As Jung wrote, true companionship thrives only when each individual remembers his own individuality and does not identify himself with the other. This is the foundation of authentic connection. It's a relationship between two whole, sovereign individuals, not two broken and needy egos clinging to each other for survival. You can be fully and unapologetically yourself, and in doing so, you grant the other person the implicit permission to be fully themselves. You can speak your truth with kindness, because your self-worth no longer depends on their constant agreement. You can be vulnerable and open, because you're no longer terrified of the shadow aspects of yourself, or of theirs. The gift you bring back from your journey is the gift of truly seeing and allowing yourself to be seen. Because you've had the courage to look into your own depths, you can now see the depths in others. You learn to look past their persona, their defenses, and their difficult behaviors, and you see the struggling, complex, beautiful soul inside. And because you're no longer hiding behind your own mask, you finally allow another person to truly see you. This is the communion that heals that deep psychic ache. It's the profound experience of being known and accepted for who you truly are. You also develop a new, more mature relationship with society. You're no longer a slave to its collective opinions, but you're not an angry rebel against it either. You can participate, but consciously. You can wear the necessary masks of social life when you need to, like at work, in certain family situations, but you never again mistake the mask for your real face. You know the difference. You can contribute to the world in a truly meaningful way, because your actions are now guided by a firm internal compass and, well, a sense of purpose, not by a desperate desire for applause or status. By doing this difficult, solitary inner work, you become a source of light, not just for yourself, but for those around you who are still lost in the dark. This journey transforms your greatest pain into your deepest wisdom, the loneliness that was once an unbearable, crushing weight. Well, it's now understood as the very force that was necessary for your growth and transformation. You develop a deep, quiet compassion for others who are still lost in that labyrinth, because you've walked its winding paths yourself. You see their anger, their fear, their arrogance, and you don't meet it with judgment. Instead, you meet it with the quiet, knowing understanding of someone who has bravely faced their own demons. The dark psychology of loneliness isn't dark because it leads to despair. It's dark because it leads you into the darkness of the unknown, that rich, fertile, and often scary territory of your own unconscious soul. It's a profound invitation to a deeper, more meaningful life. It's a call from your future self to stop frantically looking for answers in the distracting noise of the crowd, and to start listening to the powerful wisdom that can only be found in your own silence. This journey isn't easy. It demands more courage than almost any other human undertaking, but it is truly the most meaningful one you can possibly take. It's the path to becoming who you choose to be, not a person defined by what happened to you. It is the long, arduous, and beautiful process of finally, truly coming home. That persistent feeling of loneliness, it may not be a sign that you are broken. It may, in fact, be a sign that you're starting to wake up. It may be the first whisper of a sacred call to adventure, a call to begin the most important journey of your life. The choice, as always, is yours. Will you stay on the safe, familiar surface? Or will you accept the invitation and dive deep? This journey is, by its very nature, a solitary one. But the experience of it, the struggle and the triumph, that's universal. So, share your story in the comments below. What has loneliness taught you? And how have you, in your own way, found its hidden gifts? Your experience, it might just be the light that helps another person find their way through the dark.